Hi, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. This week, with our math activity, we're going to be talking about numbers and more in particular about counting out, okay, for those numbers. So, for a group of my friends, most of my friends are knowing their numbers 1 through 5 or even 1 through 10, okay? So, we're now moving on to the stages of counting out objects for that number. So, giving them the number one and counting out one thing, giving them the number three and counting out three pieces of something, okay? In those packets that got sent home were the number sheet cards, which I would hope that my parents could cut them out for me, please. And we're really just going to be focusing on the numbers 1 through 10. To start out, just to make sure that your child has the understanding of counting, is we want to practice counting in a sequence, counting 1 through 10. So what I would do is actually take one of the pieces of construction paper I gave, the extra that's in the packet, and just do a number line, writing 1 through 10. And then with those number sheets that I gave you and them being cut out, hold up a number, ask your child what it is, and have them match. Then practice counting. One, and they could take off the number one. Two, they could take off the number two. Three, they could take off the number three, just so that they knew the sequence of counting 1 through 5, or at least 1 through 5, up to 10 if possible as well. Some kids are up to 10 and even beyond, but I would start 1 through 5 and then 1 through 10 and kind of move up in increments. Okay, but just to get them familiar with counting in a sequence. So I would start with that. If they're able to get past that, they can count 1 through 10, no issue. What I would start to do is use those number cards like I just showed you, have them cut out, give them a number, and then in your packets were the pom-poms, there were buttons in there. You could use Cheerios. You could use rocks from outside, any little tangible objects that you have. You might have counters at home too. You could use anything small like that to have them practice counting. So what I would do is just focus on the numbers 1 through 5 just to start. So give them the number one and say, put on one pom-pom or one Cheerio or one whatever, and have them count. So they count one and they put one on there. Then ask them to find maybe the number three. They find number three. Oh, let's put on three pom-poms and have them counting. One, two, three. Okay. And I would go up to the number 5. If you're noticing that they can do that independently, then you would go up to the number 10, but start out 1 through 5 just to start. And make sure you do it a little bit more continuously. Just because they do it one day doesn't mean that they can do it the next day. So I would practice the same thing the next day just to make sure you know, in fact, that they know what they're doing. Another option that you could do too, if it ends up that you see that the counting out is kind of difficult. They can count 1 through 10, but then counting out numbers, that one-to-one correspondence, is a little bit difficult. You could just take a pencil and on those number cards, put the amount of dots that is for the number on the card. So I could put 3 dots for that number 3, and then having them match and count. So that 1, 2, 3, and that sometimes helps. And then I would take that away over time so they don't become dependent on being able to physically do that. Okay. But again, we're just working on numbers, that number identification, counting, and then now beginning to count out objects, that one-to-one correspondence. Okay. This could be a little bit difficult. So that's why I say just start with the numbers 1 through 5 to start. Don't worry about 1 through 10 right away. We really want them to get the concept, and you're just beginning this out. And at home, it's different than what we are doing in school with me doing it as well. So again, use those number cards. Don't worry about having to make modifications. Like I said, put those dots on if you need be, and use the materials that are going to interest them. I've actually found when we were able to use food, goldfish, Cheerios, they seem to be more into it because the idea of like, oh, I get to count it out and then I get to eat it, or they could even do it that way as well. You can give them the number 3 and let's count out 3 pieces, and they could eat the 3 pieces. Sometimes when it's a highly reinforcing thing, they're more into the activity as well, and you'd be surprised what they're capable of doing as well. But please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you so much. Bye.